Welcome back to the Stockwell Eldridge Show. I'm Jason Stockwell, Remax Results.
And I'm Dawn Eldridge, Remax Results. Jason, have you read this yet?
I'm working on it. My wife always says I'm a slow reader, so we don't do the book reading together because she'll be on. I'll be wait. I'm reading that page, and she'll be 3-4 pages. Katie will be 3-4 pages ahead of me. She's a very fast reader. But
What's the book?
But I will say that I retain. I'm slower, but I retain a lot more. Maybe not a lot more, but more. We'll say that. But this was on the show last time with Marshall and with Brandon Doyle. Marshall Saunders and Brandon Doyle did this book, and they launched it. Now it's on Amazon. It's all over. It's really good, and it's for realtors getting into the business. It can probably help you in mortgage and any other business. We have a great show already going, talking about limiting your liability, buying investment property. We're going to get into leasing, financing, all those things. And we have Stephanie Havel here with Wells Fargo and Nate Nelson here with Messalini and Kramer. But we're talking about wealth. Did I say that correctly?
Messerly and Kramer.
Messerly.
Messerly and Kramer.
Not Mussolini.
Stephanie's here. I got this Italian mojo coming on over here all the
What's she
time.
talking about? Come on now.
Or not when you've been served as miserly and Kramer.
Miserly. Well, so we have experts here we're talking about, but we're talking about wealth. So if you're thinking of buying an extra property or a rental property or investing, if you're to that point, that means things are going good for you, right? You're not in dire straits. You're not having a horrible time. You have a job. You're working. You have your house. You have assets, and you're going to invest it. Here's what's going on right now. This is Elliot Eisenberg. He's the bow tie economist. Says that he says extra equity. This is the title. Wealth of Americans hit a new high just recently. Wealth of Americans,
Really?
believe it or not, from the pre-recession, of $88.1 trillion in the first quarter of 2016. That's up from $87.2 trillion in the fourth quarter of 2015. The rise was driven primarily by an increase in residential real estate, realtors and real estate, because that was $498 billion rise in real estate. Equity prices declined, however, in the stock market, $160 billion, but real estate way surpassed it. So bottom line is net worth had bottomed out in first quarter of 2009, of $54.6 trillion, and now it's $88.1 trillion. Home equity as a percentage of real estate is 58%, near the 60% it was before the recession. So, and total liabilities only rose a little bit. So extra money, extra equity. We've seen a lot of the equity come back that was hammered away in the recession, and now it's come back. So that's good news. So if you have the extra equity, you have the extra money, you're looking to grow that, there's many ways you can do it. Real estate is one of them that I think is one of the best ways to do it, but it's all about the buy and buying at the right price and not getting overextended and buying in the crappy.
Like you said, buying with the right ownership with the right people and setting it up the right way.
Getting the
Is
right
that what you're
financing
saying,
on the
Nate?
property so you're not getting hard money. Some people may use hard money loans, but man, that's short term. That 16%, that 14%, that's short term. You need to lock in and make it sustainable if you're going to keep it as a rental.
And Stephanie, as you said too, when you set it up properly, the last thing that's going to help profits is if owners are fighting. So oftentimes you'll see co-owners own property together.
It's devastating when they separate. I mean, it's horrible. Yeah.
And it's not for the lawyers devastating, but yeah. So take that at your own chagrin, right?
But
Better
you
to
can
get
help
right
us with
first.
that, right? Is that what you're going to comment on, or are you
Well,
had information about?
I always like to work on, if we're going to get in together when we're all agreeing, how are we going to exit? Because there's oftentimes, if we're not friends when we exit, we're never going to agree. So if we can't agree now on how we're going to exit, that may be a forebearer of trouble down the road. So if we can map out the entry, the management, and the exit strategy, I think that'll give better protect the returns you receive on the investment.
I went to a seminar, and I go to a lot of classes and seminars. Dawn does too, and Stephanie, I'm sure you do too. And the speaker at the seminar said this, and I took this it reminded me of a lot of past deals. He said, when you're entering into the partnership and everybody's happy, right? It's a new partnership or things are going great. He said, if you can't get along at that point, if it's already contentious, you have a bad relationship at that point, that's the happiest time in the entire relationship you're going to have when you're brand new. And if that is already going bad, you should turn and run because it is not going to go well because that's your peak happiness. And then something bad's you're going to get the stress of life, business, and all that stuff that's going to go on. And then an exit's going to be really ugly at that point, right? I mean, have you seen
Brilliant.
that probably?
That's you took the words right out of my mouth.
So how do you do the properly then when you say you plan the partnership, the growth, and the exit?
Sure, and when you talk to an attorney, partnership's a scary word. So we don't want partnerships. And when I think what we first have to worry about is how are we going to
Why would
fund
partners, just time out on that, sorry to cut you off. Why would that be a scary word? We use it all the time as a positive word. We're partners, we're in a partnership, or even relationships from a personal level down to business level. What's wrong with a partnership?
Sure, that's
from an attorney's
that's
perspective?
probably why lawyers always get that reputation of doom and gloom at times. But in any event, what scares us about partnership is if Stephanie and I were going to buy a property together, we're entering a partnership, and the general law of partnerships throughout the entire United States of America is each partner is individually liable, personally liable for the acts of the partnership. So even if it was Stephanie's day to shovel the driveway, and she's the one responsible for shoveling the driveway that day, if someone slips and falls on that driveway, both the asset that the partnership owns, Stephanie's assets, and my assets would be at risk to satisfy the poor person who slipped.
Okay, so folks out there, if you're listening to this, and many of you have partnerships on one form or another, whether they're formal or informal, what's a better way to go about that then? So let's say I'm in a partnership and the person isn't exactly like me, which no one's going to be like you in a partnership, and you're going to do things differently. And if you trust them 100%, that's great, but it still could mess up your liability, right? What's a better way to do it then?
The preferred way would be a limited liability company where Stephanie would own her percentage interest, whatever she contributed, say 50%, and I own the other 50%. God forbid Stephanie forgot to shovel the driveway
Never.
that day. There you go.
I'll hire somebody. to
Poor
do it.
victim.
I'll hire someone to do
My
it.
last boyfriend.
Poor victim's a klutz and slips on the driveway, knocks her head in, and now all of a sudden that victim is going to be able to seek redress against the owner of the property, which would be the limited liability company.
Yeah.
I'd be free and clear because it wasn't my day to worry about shoveling the driveway. So then if Stephanie was the one who ultimately was responsible for that, there may or may not be exposure to Stephanie. Another way to further insulate that is if Stephanie and I own the LLC 50/50, we'd hire a different management company to manage the property, so it's not our responsibility for the repair and
Got it.
upkeep, but it's the owner liability that would scare us. If it's in partnership solution between Steffi and I, we're both responsible for the property and our own acts dealing with that property. And
So
that
it's
can be
better to
untenable.
have an LLC where you're each owning a percentage of that than it is to have a partnership. That's what we got from that. That's the takeaway I got from that. So why do they still have LLPs, limited liability partnerships?
Sure.
Or is that the same thing as an LLC where you have partner ownership?
That's close, but if maybe we can take a broader question on why do they still have partnerships or even limited partnerships. And some of the reason for that is financing restrictions. If you're going to work with Freddie Mac for investment properties, which funds an awful lot of those, they don't permit ownership in LLC solution. So now all of a sudden we're back.
Really? I
right.
didn't know that. Wow. I did not know that. Really?
No, and
Wow.
so it would be a due on sale clause on the financing if it were discovered that the owner of the Freddie Mac investment real estate was owned by an LLC. It can be owned by a revocable trust, but a revocable trust doesn't give you any protection.
So then all these companies that are buying properties in LLC names and getting financing, is that through Fannie Mae then, or what?
No, it's not. It's not through Fannie Mae. It would be through basically a business bank. And you'll
Okay.
notice with a business bank, you're going to have shorter loan terms and slightly higher interest rates.
So let's say
Yeah.
I want to own an LLC because I want to protect myself, but I do want to go through a bank like a Wells Fargo or someone who funds with Freddie or Fannie financing because I can get better rates on that. As an example, how would I do that? Buy it in my personal name first, then transfer it out into LLC, but that's going to kick in the due on sale clause. So what's the process?
So now we got to be very careful about who we pick as partners. And what we want to pick as partners are persons that can indemnify us in case the partnership or the entity gets dinged. So we'd want to have an agreement where if it was Stephanie's fault, even though we're both subject to liability to the plaintiff, if you will, Stephanie would have to pay me back through indemnification for the amount that she caused the damages.
Yeah, but I'm saying, how would you buy it? Let's say I'm
Well,
trying to acquire property and I don't want to
When we
buy
do
it.
residential lending, we always, if it's through an LLC, it's got to go through a different division of Wells Fargo than through our
okay. So you have
residential
a plan.
lending.
The bank
And
has a
anytime
plan
you
for
make
that.
changes to a property, I mean, it's a little off topic, but sometimes customers do turn their primary residence into a non-owner occupied. They
Yeah,
rent
they
it
move out to it. I did
it's-
that.
Yeah, you've got to notify your lender. A lot of times we call on, customers will call in. And I'm like, oh, is this your primary residence? Like, no, I've been renting out for 2 years, and it's still showing in our system. So, to your case, if somebody buys it as an individual and then turns it into an LLC, it
gotta
doesn't
notify the
notify
lender.
us. Yeah, well,
Well, then Wells
'cause then we
Fargo,
might
the
have
lender
issues.
could have a due on sale, but they may not, right? They may just say, hey, keep it going, but it's going to transfer into this, or what? Or they
yeah,
may
that I
refi
can't
you, or-
comment on because I really don't
There's
know.
gonna be all
Maybe
kinds of
Nate
different
would-
scenarios.
Yeah.
Well,
It's also a big no-no to buy the property saying you're going to keep it for your primary residence and then turn it into.
No, but I'm saying, you buy it as an
investment.
investment, but you buy it. Yeah, then they wouldn't even give it to you. Well, you could buy it as an investment in your personal name. I've seen that happen all the
Yep.
time.
No, and that so that your question was, what do you do if you can't get it into an LLC without violating your loan terms? Then we'd like to do a co-tenancy agreement with your co-owners to at least define the rights and responsibilities amongst us. Get a boatload of insurance, get umbrella insurance,
Yeah.
and only you rent, and then hold
So,
and
folks,
enter a
we're
lease.
trying to. What we're going to do in the next segment is simplify a little bit, so you're not overwhelmed right now and thinking that you can't buy real estate. You can, and we're going to try to make it easy. We'll be back.
Red, white, and blue.